everyone and welcome back to my booktube channel, Lisa in Bookland, and this is my TBR for Jane Austen July 2023. This will be my second year participating officially in Jane Austen July and I'm so delighted, I can't wait. I've just, even before I joined booktube, it's something I always join Jane with, and who doesn't love Jane Austen, and I find it's just such a happy time on booktube. It's probably helped it's summer as well, and I'm hoping this year I'll be able to participate a little bit more fully than I did last year and make some videos and things, so yeah, really looking forward to that. Of course, Jane Austen July is hosted by three lovely booktubers: Katie from Books and Things, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia at Spinster's Library, and I'll link all of their channels and announcement videos down below, and I'd definitely encourage you to check out their Jane Austen content because they got years and years of it and it's just brilliant. So there are 6 challenges. The first challenge is to read one of Jane Austen's main 6 novels, and for this they're hosting a read along of Northanger Abbey, and I only read Northanger Abbey last year, so I don't think I'm going to read it again, but the one I think I am going to read is Emma by Jane Austen, which is the one I haven't read for a while. It's the one I've read longest ago, even though I have read it I'd say 4 times already, mostly an audiobook, oddly, because I have an audiobook version of it. I think I'll read it on paper this time. Yeah, and I just love Emma. I definitely I think she's a character that I know a lot of people don't like her, and Jane Austen said that she wrote a heroine who only she herself would like, but I think when I read Emma, even the first time, I kind of got that uncomfortable feeling that I could actually recognise some of my own traits in Emma. Hopefully I don't cause as much trouble as Emma does, but yeah. So what is Emma about? Of course, the novel basically starts off: Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. Emma is most well known for her love of matchmaking, and so that I think that is not one of the traits that I share with Emma. I'm not much of a matchmaker myself, but yeah, just such a fun read, and yeah, I think I will read this at the end of the month. I'm going on a work trip in July, which would be a first for me. I think this would be a good one to read on the plane and things, and yeah, really looking forward to reading Emma again. And so the second prompt then is to read something by Jane Austen that's not one of her main 6 novels. So I actually will be joining in the group read for this, which will be the second half of the month as well, and it is of some of Jane Austen's Juvenilia, which I think I have read most of it before from this collection, but again, not for a few years, and probably not when I was as familiar with Jane Austen, so yeah, really looking forward to returning to it. I'll link all the exact Juvenilia dates and stuff are in the announcement videos, and those will be linked below, but yeah, they're just so funny. I think my favourite one that I can remember is about a girl who goes and buys a new hat in a shop or something. I can't remember all the details, but it was so funny, and yeah, what kind of painting is that in the front? So yeah. Also, what I'm hoping to read is some of Jane Austen's letters. Now again, I do have a smaller collection that has just a small number of letters, and they're beautifully illustrated, but I've never read them kind of in full. Like, I'm not saying I will this Jane Austen July or anything, but I think I'd maybe like to read some of them and maybe dig into this collection, and maybe it'll be a project over a couple of Jane Austen Julys that I'll read her letters. So yeah, I just she's so witty. There is a little bit of work to her letters because you need to think about who the people she's writing to and mentioning are, if it's known at all. So yeah, but they still are really enjoyable, and this is obviously has all the accompanying notes and things. So I didn't write these prompts down, so I hope I'm remembering them in the right order. The third prompt is to read a non-fiction work about Jane Austen or her time. So yeah, I'm going with this book, The Genius of Jane Austen by Paula Byrne. I've heard good things about this book. I believe it is about Jane Austen and her love of theatre, and I haven't decided what plays I'm going to read yet, and we'll come to that, but I did read a book earlier on in the year, The Ballad of Lord Edward Fitzgerald, and it mentioned a lot of plays that would have been performed during Jane Austen's time, and a lot of playwrights like Sheridan and that, so yeah, I may check out some of those, and I'm curious to know what plays that Paula Byrne mentions here, so I might read this like earlier in the month and then alter my reading schedule for the contemporary literature around that. And then the second one I'm hoping to read for this prompt is a very random little work of literary criticism, which is always a bit... I've only read one work of literary criticism before, the John Mullan book, What Matters in Jane Austen, which is great, but I just saw this in a second-hand shop and it said Jane Austen in it, so I just decided to buy it, and it's Literature in Perspective, Jane Austen by Norman Sherry. This just looks like to be some little essays about the different books, and yeah, like it was first published in 1966, so I assume some of it might be quite dated. Surely some of it will still be relevant, given that Jane Austen obviously has been read by generations of people. Yeah, well, it should be quite interesting. So her limitations and her strengths, we'll all be dying to know what those limitations might be. Then it covers 3 novels in each of 2 chapters, marriage and morals, comedy, character, the physical and social background, and a note on Jane Austen's style. So yeah, it might help me be a little bit more informed, I suppose, when reading Jane Austen, so which will be nice. It doesn't mention anything about her juvenilia or anything, but maybe it'll come out throughout, but I'll see if I got on with that one. So the next prompt then is to read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen. So as I mentioned, I'm going to read maybe 1 or 2 plays. Richard Brimsley Sheridan is probably the one that I'd most like to touch on because he's an Irish playwright, but also I'm going to try and read some other things. So the novel is one that I've kind of come across, and I again saw in a second-hand shop a few months ago, and I picked it up and I thought it would be perfect for this. So it's a bit unusual, contemporary for Jane Austen, but it's The Wild Irish Girl by Sidney Owenson and Lady Morgan. Written after the Act of Union, The Wild Irish Girl 1806 is a passionately nationalistic novel and a founding text in the discourse of Irish nationalism. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think we know what Jane Austen's opinions of the Act of Union were or anything, but yeah. When Horatio, the son of an English lord, is banished to his father's Irish estate as punishment for his dissipated ways, he goes off in search of adventure. On the wild west coast of Connaught, he finds remnants of a romantic Gaelic past, a dilapidated castle, a Catholic priest, and a deposed king in the king's lovely daughter, Glorvina. I'm just really interested in this, because I know the Act of Union happened and obviously had such big consequences for Ireland, but I don't know as much about like 18th century, like early 19th century pre-famine Ireland as I would like, so yeah, I really must pay more attention to that, and I just think this book could be really interesting. And finally, I'm going, again, this is a book that I picked up in the second-hand shop, and I am just going to read a few poems by Coleridge, who is obviously a very popular poet of the Romantic era. And yeah, I think it was for Jane Austen July last year, I read The Rime of the Ancient Mariner from this collection, and I absolutely loved it, so let's hope that the rest of Coleridge is as much of a success. And the last reading prompt then is to read a Jane Austen retelling. I think it could be like contemporary retelling, or it could be like historical, it's set in the age of Jane Austen, just follow a different character, or else it could actually be historical fiction that's set in the era. So I'm going to try and do both of them. So I may very well be tempted by A Dalliance with the Duke. They're one of those fan fictions, and if anybody does want to try the world of online fan fiction, there are some really good Jane Austen ones out there, so let me know and I can point you towards them, especially from that one author. But the ones that I'm going to read in like print form, I suppose, this one, which is actually my Jane Austen July TBR from last year and I didn't get to it, was The Other Mr. Darcy by Monica Fairview. So this follows Caroline Bigley after the wedding that happens at the end of Pride and Prejudice, just in case you don't know the storyline, even though I'm assuming you do. And I believe he gets, and I believe Caroline actually gets to know Mr. Darcy's American cousin, Robert Darcy. So yeah, this should just be really fun, I think. And you know, some of these they're a bit hit and miss, but we'll see what this one is like. So the other book that I'm kind of reading it's not really following one of Jane Austen's characters, but it's definitely like Jane Austen adjacent, and that's because it features Jane Austen, her actual self. So it's Godmersham Park by Gill Hornby. Last year I read Miss Austen and I really liked it by this author, so yeah, but that was set after Jane Austen's death, whereas this is set during Jane Austen's life. Anne Sharp is the governess to Fanny Austen, who is Jane Austen's niece, and Jane was actually good friends with Anne Sharp, and I think this is just set at Godmersham Park, which is Edward Knight's house and Fanny's house, and obviously Jane went to stay there a good bit, so yeah, I believe that this will cover maybe their growing friendship, and yeah, just really looking forward to it. And I never saw Nigella Lawson blurb a book before. Interesting. But yeah, I liked this author last year, so I'll see how I get on with this one. So the next book then, obviously I have unlimited books that I could pick from for the historical fiction prompt because this is my favourite period to read about in historical fiction. But I went with this one, which is a relatively new release, The Weather Woman by Sally Gardner. I first heard about this book in somebody's like anticipated releases of 2023 and it just ticked all the boxes for me. It's obviously set in the Regency era and it follows Neva Friesland, and she is born with the extraordinary gift she can predict the weather, which is obviously a really powerful talent, but also I suppose quite dangerous for her. And to try and deal with this, it says that she adopts a sophisticated male disguise. She foretells the weather from inside an automaton created by her brilliant clockmaker father. But what will happen when the disguised Neva falls in love with a charismatic young man? It's the tagline is, it can be dangerous to be ahead of your time, especially as a woman. So yeah, I just think that sounds absolutely fascinating and really looking forward to it. I'm so tempted to add more reads into here, but I think that'll be enough to keep me going, at least for now. If I do manage to read anything else, there is another readathon that I would absolutely love to participate in. It's Booktube at War. I do love books set in war and I've loads on my shelves that I'd like to read, so I'll probably get to those if anything. Either the Napoleonic Wars, which would fit in with that prompt there, or else I do have some Second World War books on my bookshelves that I would really love to read, so yeah, I'll just see how much free time I have in July to get to those. So yes. There are two other prompts. They're watching prompts, and I think the first one is to watch an adaptation of a Jane Austen film, and I'm going to watch the 2000s Northanger Abbey, because again I was supposed to watch that last year and also I was supposed to watch Mansfield Park, but I find whenever I set these watching prompts I just don't watch much telly anyways. I'll just say I'm going to watch Northanger Abbey for now, and if I get to more that's fine. But yes, the other one I do really want to fulfill, and that's to like watch a retelling of a Jane Austen novel. So the one I'm going to watch for this is, there was a like YouTube miniseries about that was based on Persuasion called Rational Creatures, and I've watched the first series and the second series has since come out and I didn't even know it. So yeah, I'm probably going to rewatch the first series and also the second. It's just, they're only short little episodes, so low commitment and just really good. I love those YouTube miniseries, they're excellent. So yeah, even though I'm sure the Lizzie Bennet diaries will always have my heart, but yeah, definitely worth watching if you haven't watched them already. So yes, that's it for my Jane Austen July TBR. Thanks again to the Readathon hosts for always doing such a wonderful job of this, and everybody getting so excited on YouTube. It's always fun to watch. Let me know if you're taking part in Jane Austen July, what you're going to read, and yeah, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday for my next video.